we welcome you to Power Rankings, Peace and Love, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer.
Still going.
Still going with the old Zeuser, DanHanzus. You know, they still tell the tales of the legend at Franklin Ave Elementary there in Pearl River of red light, green light. This man right here, DanHanzus, dominated all, and we are graced with his presence today as he posts 1 through 32 on the Power Rankings. Every single team slotted in the perfect space, and we will kick it all around today, Dan. Starting back up to the top slot, the only undefeated left, an impressive victory without their head coach in Cleveland, the Arizona Cardinals at number 1, despite the loss. The only two-loss team in the top 7, the Buffalo Bills, slide back 1 spot. So let's get started right there at the top. It was Monday Night Football. The Bills slide to number 2, but you keep them ahead of the Ravens, who have 1 loss less.
And at Franklin Avenue, it was kickball. If you could win in kickball, you were king. Or sting. When the tennis ball goes off the wall, you got to catch that ball.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. The Bills.
You've knocked yourself off track by clarifying your playground games.
But you set the table, and then I had to come in and feast upon it. Let's talk about the Bills. We have a team here that was 1 4th down conversion away from being the locked and loaded number 1 for a second week. And I think what happens here is these Monday night games are strange sometimes.
Yes.
And it doesn't explain away why they lost or why Josh Allen's feet gave out of here or why the offensive line couldn't get any push. But it's sometimes these island games, take a step back and be like, okay, they lost, but they're still okay. And that's where I am on the Bills. And you look at all the advanced analytics where they stand. They pass the eye test. And I think even though they lost this game, they're going to be okay. And that's why I didn't drop them. And just like I don't give Sean McDermott any guff for going for it on 4th down. In the modern NFL, the coaches trust their elite players to win the games. Don't get conservative. Go for the W. It didn't work out, but good for him.
Yeah, it's the outlier. It's Derrick Henry. It is a power running game that is unlike any other. It sucks your linebackers up because you cannot allow Derrick Henry to bring contact to you. You better bring contact to him. And it's a Monday Night Football game, like you said. It's in Nashville. This is a team that had not allowed a 50-yard rusher at the running back position all season long. And Derrick Henry gashes them for 143 and 3 touchdowns, 76 going on this carry alone. And shout out to our friend Hawk, who on social media pointed out that Derrick Henry runs like Forrest Gump, and that makes him very happy.
Oh, that's a great call.
And that is an astute observation.
Is Derrick Henry,
from Hawk.
quick power rankings side conversation, best running back of the past 25 years? Adrian Peterson is the only guy that I think is in the conversation at this point.
If he goes back-to-back 2,000 yards, it's going to be really hard to pick anybody else. I mean, even if it's 7, he's on pace for 21.76 right now with best, that 21.05 of Eric Dickerson. Here's the one thing about the Bills, though. If we are going to pick nits, and I'm with you, I believe they are the best team in the NFC. Look at these rankings. 2nd in points, 6th in yards, 3rd in turnovers. They do not turn the ball over. But look at that last one.
That stands out.
In converting red zone opportunities into touchdowns. They're living by the big play. So they got into the red zone right here in nearly a goal-to-go situation twice at the start of this game. And they could have gone up 14-0, and instead they go up 6-0. And that is a huge difference when you're on the road in a primetime game. And it's not like it was an anomaly. This is something that has been a bugaboo for them all season long.
And if you look at all the numbers, like we're saying, they're at the top of the league in almost every major offensive category. And defensive. But on the offensive side, that tells me they'll get that straightened out. And maybe because they're so far back, they'll end up finishing in the 10 to 15 range. But I think they're too good to not get better there. They'll get that figured out. You know that's going to be a coaching point throughout this week. And I think the one guy, Stephon Diggs, jumps out to me. I know he had a touchdown yesterday and made some plays, and he makes a play or two every week, but he hasn't had that same connection with Josh Allen this season, and I think in the red zone you see that especially.
Yeah, but you got Dawson Knox, who's emerged. Manuel Sanders has become a go-to guy.
I'm just trying to figure it out because it doesn't make sense. Why would this
and I bring it up just because that's the story of that game. They don't convert the 4th and 1 and get the touchdown there. They don't get touchdowns on either of their first 2 possessions. They settle for field goals, and that is literally the difference in that game last night, and it being a loss instead of a win. And I'll just quickly point this out before we get to the Ravens. Let's not forget, it's a different playoff format now. So the 1 seed has an incredible advantage. They are the only team that has a first-round bye. So if that's slipped away there from the Bills, that's a huge dent in their path to the Super Bowl 56 out here in Los Angeles. Let's get to that team, by the way, that is currently atop the AFC. And that's the Ravens, as they sit at 5-1 after a dominating victory over the Chargers.
And look at the Ravens when you go back to the beginning of the season, right before week 1, when they got hit with all those injuries, Marcus Peters and their running backs. And it was like, what are they going to do? And then the season starts, and Lamar is so heavily involved with the game plan that you come out of that Monday night comeback against the Colts last week saying, man, are they too reliant on Lamar? And then this game happens against the Chargers, who we all agree, they are a superpower in the AFC. And Lamar doesn't have the type of game where he's just filling up the stat sheet on the run and filling up the stat sheet through the air. And yet, they blow out the Chargers, which tells me that Baltimore is not just this pray for Lamar greatness type team, even though they've had injuries. Even though they've been overly reliant at times on Lamar, they have the ability to deliver a big-time performance against a great team. And I think that you take out of that, okay, this is a Super Bowl contender right here.
Yeah, two things is, for people that don't know, I call games for the Chargers. I was there. That stood out to me.
We heard.
One is a public service announcement here. I'm glad I'm on the single. This is a perfect lesson as to why quarterback rating is a flawed statistic. Lamar Jackson had a quarterback rating that was 0.2 better than Justin Herbert in that game. And the chasm was Grand Canyon wide between how each of those players performed on that Sunday. Lamar Jackson was fantastic. He ran when he needed to run. He converted third downs when he needed to convert third downs. Did he throw 2 interceptions? Yes. One of them was not his fault. It bounced off Rashad Bateman's chest. I mean, it should have been a completion for a first down. Instead, it was an interception. Yet he gets out of there with a QB rating of 68. The other thing is, tip of the cap to the coaches. Greg Roman ran the ball against a team that is searching for answers against the run, and Wink Martindale was phenomenal. They overloaded one side of the offensive line. You see, I mean, it took Le'Veon Bell an afternoon to get to the end zone, and yet it was so wide open. They but here's the thing. Defensively is what stood out to me, is they had a game plan, and they were overloading the right side of the line where they have a backup guard and a backup tackle, and Michael Schofield and Storm Norton, and that's where they attacked. And Herbert just could not crack the code. We'll get to the Chargers in a minute, but just for the Ravens, that's why I say maybe they don't get enough credit because they run the ball so much in Greg Roman, and maybe Wink Martindale doesn't get enough credit because he's been in the league so long. But, man, that was a coaching masterpiece that they put together against the Chargers on Sunday.
And this has been, we talked about at the beginning of the season when they were dealing with all the injuries, that organizational stability matters. And a lot of that goes back to what they've built in the front office and what they've built on that coaching staff and the continuity there. You got to love the Ravens. Yeah. They're going to be around.
It took us a few minutes, so I don't think we need to apologize. It's still the first segment of the show. The number one team in all the land, the only unbeaten left. And, man, that was impressive, what they were able to do going into Cleveland and getting out of there with a victory in that fashion.
Right, similar to with the Ravens, what I was saying. Sometimes there's this idea that, well, Kyler Murray is the only guy that makes this team special. But that's not true. I mean, they have balance on both sides of the ball. They can beat you with speed. They can beat you with power. They can beat you on the run. They can beat you through the air. And we saw all that. And to be able to pull off a performance like that did, to really embarrass the Browns in their building, is a testament to that coaching staff with Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know if I believe this, that Cliff Kingsbury said he didn't even watch the game, really. He was studying for the Texans next week. Okay, whatever, bro. But, Vance Joseph, the job that he did, you have a different play caller in Kyler Murray's ear, and none of it mattered. This is just a well-run team, and that really says something, Money, because you entered the season saying, is Cliff Kingsbury the answer here? Well, yeah, it looks like he's the answer, even in a game he wasn't there.
Yeah, he is your overwhelming favorite for MVP right now. I believe that. I mean, Dak is certainly in that conversation. Josh Allen, Justin, that's fine. They are doing something that they have not done since the 70s when they were in St. Louis, and that is start undefeated, have a quarterback that's completing over 70% of his passes to a bevy of weapons. James Conner's career has been reignited, and like you said, they are just so balanced. And you saw the difference, right? Kyler Murray carrying an offense when he has to. Baker Mayfield kind of needs everything to be just right around him, or a defense like that can exploit that offense. But so this is interesting, right? When we started this in the preseason, the first ever power rankings, we talked about how, and I believe, I don't want to speak for you, I believe we were in concert, the AFC looked to be a powerhouse, and it was going to be a gauntlet to get out of the AFC. The NFC, we were like, you got the Bucs, right. And then this does not look like a good comment. Let's get a look at your power rankings right now, Dan, and how things stand after a third of the way through the season.
Well, okay, so you look at
NFC,
this.
then you have the Bills, then you've got NFC. Look at the Packers, look at the Rams. I mean, you are talking about an NFC-heavy top 8 right now, and you can make a case for any of those teams behind the Cards.
Right. The only caveat here is, yes, I think the Cardinals, the Bucks, the Cowboys, the Packers, the Rams, any of those teams could be playing in the last game of the year. After those teams, things start to drop off and it gets really muddy.
That's a lot of teams.
But that's a lot of that's some choice beef.
Let's start with the Bucks.
Right.
And you know, they stay at number 3. You know, didn't look great against Jalen Hurts and that dual threat quarterback. And that's when you start thinking about Kyler Murray. Okay, if they struggle with Jalen Hurts, what are they going to do when Kyler Murray comes to town if they have to face him, or when they go to Arizona to face him in the playoffs? Where are you at with the Bucks?
I mean, I didn't think they really struggled that much with Jalen Hurts. I thought that they handled him, and there was the Eagles, you know, they get those garbage time scores, and that happens. But, like, I think with the Bucks, they are 5-1. In a season, it's very hard as a defending champion to come out of the gates fast like they have. They've weathered injuries, and that Eagles game, it's on a Thursday night, so it's a short week. Just find a way to win, and Tom Brady never loses on a short week. So you have all these advantages built in having Brady in your team. But yes, did I consider moving the Bucks up to 1? No, but it was not hard to keep them in the top 3 because I think the Bucks are in a very good spot to make a deep playoff run as long as QB12 is healthy.
All right, let's go to Cowboys. We talked about Kai. You know what? I'm going to retract that statement already in the same segment.
What?
Not the overwhelming favorite. I think Dak is right there, step for step. And I would say Dak is probably playing, not trying to take a shot at Kyler Murray. He is right there, but I think Dak's probably playing the best quarterback in the NFL right now.
He makes multiple throws every week where it's like, I don't remember him being that incredible in the past.
It was such a small sample last year. Remember, he was electric in those first 4 games, and then he got hurt.
And even the year before, like, he was clearly a quarterback getting better and better, but now he's just locked in. I mean, that's not an easy throw. It might look like an easy throw, but it's a beautiful toss. And, you know, I think, again, the thing with the Cowboys, they're a big play team. They're a big play team on offense, and with Trayvon Diggs back there in the secondary, they're a big play team on defense. The one thing, it is on my radar, and I know he had the MRI, but and it came back somewhat clean. But Dak Prescott on the game-winning touchdown pass to CeeDee Lamb strained his calf. And we'll see. They're on a bye week.
For the bye.
Perfect bye timing. But we'll see if that is something that could hang around and haunt him. Because if you take Dak out of it, and if anybody that remembers Hard Knocks over the summer, they have a disaster situation behind him at QB. There's no Andy Dalton.
Let's not take him out of it. It's a bye week, and as far as we're concerned, he's going to be back out there and continue his quest.
Stay in the boot.
That MVP. And by the way,
no
Bill Belichick took away the running game. That was the, hey, I'm going to take something away from you. That's what I do. I'm Bill Belichick. They did. And Dak just threw it all over. That's exactly how he does it. Let's wrap with the Packers, who got a big victory over their rival, the Chicago Bears. And look, it was a hard-fought victory, even though the score might not, well, I guess it was a 1-touchdown score. But, yeah, I mean, that's a good defense. And Aaron Rodgers in this running game just tore it up.
Yeah, and the Packers, to me, these NFC teams, when you try to figure out where they all fit together, I think the Packers are maybe a step behind the teams ahead of them in the NFC, but they're not far off. And I think Rodgers, and this was, this viral moment on the game-clinching scramble, it just shows you, like, yeah, I know he's got the long, stringy hair now, and he goes vacations in Hawaii, and he's kind of he's a chill dude, but he's still like a savage. He's a guy, a competitor in the Jordan mold, where he looks for motivation. And I think the Packers are going to be, they've been to the NFC title game back-to-back years. Yeah. I think that ceiling is there for them again.
Look, and the running game is better. Dillon is better, and Aaron Jones is just as good, and that's what they're able to lean on when they need to lean on. You want to take away the pass and drop a bunch of guys into coverage or send some blitzers, they'll run right at you. And, man, Dillon is turning into a pretty special player as well. And I think the defense is better than maybe we thought it was going to be, especially considering some of the injuries.
Right, so Darius Smith not being there, and they've been able to
Who'd have thunk?
Keep it going.
The NFC stacked with teams making a case to be their representative in Super Bowl 56. When we return, we've got some fantasy plays. We got 6 teams coming up on a bye. Plug those holes and make sure you keep your winning ways continue. As Sammy Sosa would say back in the day, keep it continue. And also, Cynthia Freeland's going to be along to take on some of your rankings. Is she thinking the Raiders are too high or too low after getting that victory over the Broncos and improving to 4-2? Find out next.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
go. Hey, prime time, under the lights. You know what we do? We shine. Love each other and play hard today. Another day, another opportunity. Let's make some money, baby. Frank, there, Will. They walked in our house. Dominate on 3. 1, 2, 3. Touchdown. We like that. Let's go, baby. Come on back. Keep doing it. Keep balling out. Let's go whoop that in the second half. Take this shot right here. Oh, yeah. Good old Cleveland weather right here, baby. Gotta love this, man. Let's go! We're going. We're going. Thank you for coming.
All right, let's go second quadrant here. The old Zeusers power rankings, 9 through 16.
Oh, yeah.
And as we get a look at those borderline or locked-in playoff teams, and maybe the ones just on the outside looking in, as it sits right now, that would be the Raiders and the Steelers at 15 and 16. But then we got to get into the AFC, NFC balance. That's too much talk for right now because her eminence of the equation is with us. It's Power Moves presented by Energizer, the premier predictive analyst in all the land. Cynthia Freeland joins to take umbrage and usurp your power rankings power, Dan. That's what happens right here, Cynthia. You get us started with a team that you don't like where they're slotted.
So this is a land grab. That's what this is, Cynthia.
Yeah, a little sooner action. That's what this is. Here we go.
Well, I guess the first land I'm going to grab is Las Vegas because I think the Raiders are way too high at 15. I understand they just beat the Broncos, but they just beat the Broncos. It's not a huge victory here. 15 would suggest playoff eligible. I do understand that they have won some games, but you got to look forward. There's a long season ahead. And that offense, Matt Money Smith can tell you, that's a high-risk, high-reward offense, which means it can have a big downside as well. So I think they're a little too high there. Explain yourself, Dan.
Yeah, spit it out, Dan. What do you got?
Well, listen, they played their most complete game of the year. I don't know if that has something to do with the head coach and face of the team disappearing overnight. But I think you have to, not moving up the Raiders, and I moved them up 3 spots, would be silly because, first of all, we're moving the goalposts on Denver a little bit. I know they're not as good as that 3-0 record, but they're not as bad as 3-3, either the 3-game losing streak. That's a great road win. And I just think when Gruden went down, the general thought was, well, look what he built here. This was a mess, this organization. He came and never got them better. But they actually are a better team this year. And we saw that in a nice bounce-back win under unique circumstances.
Well, as much as it pains me, Cynthia, I'm going to say they're where they should be. They're right there. They're just on the outside of the playoffs, flirting with getting in at number 15. And I guess here I have 2 huge question marks. One, you mentioned it. Whenever that interim coach takes over, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but there's always that bounce. You tend to always get that first victory before things start settling in. I still have incredible issues with their offensive line and with their back end of their defense. So to me, they still have major things they have to overcome in order to get into that playoff picture, which is why I think that's kind of where they are. There's still a lot of talent there. I wouldn't be surprised if they squeaked in as the number 7 team. So I'm with Dan. I'm sorry, Cynthia. I'm gonna agree here with the old Zeuser.
6, Cindy.
As much as it hurt, especially with the Raiders in the AFC West, no less, Cynthia. All right, what else? Let's get one more. Let's see if you and I can team up on the old Zeuser here.
You have the Minnesota Vikings way too high as well. I get it. They beat an overtime win against the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers who made a bunch of mistakes and basically gave that game to them in a hand, whatever. They wrapped it up in a gift box and gave it to them ultimately with some of their decisions. So I'm not necessarily sold on much of this. And they're down so many corners. It's going to be really hard going forward to stop the pass. There's that guy in their division, Aaron Rodgers. He's pretty good at passing the football. So this is not a great playoff situation here. And they're way too high.
All right. I have a little bit of a soft spot, Cynthia, for the Vikings. They're having like a big, dumb, stupid season, and I'm enjoying it.
Let me just write that. Big, dumb, stupid season.
Because you watch them and you see all these reasons why they are a team that should win 10 games and should be in the playoffs. And then they'll do things like collapse and nearly lose to the Lions at home and then find a way to give up a 96-yard drive to Sam Darnold, who was woeful for the majority of that game.
More on that in a second.
But then you see what they can do when the offense gets cooking. Dalvin Cook, even though he's not 100%, is still a major difference maker. And Kirk Cousins is playing so well. Let's look at this great. This is the winner to KJ Osborne. He's been making throws all season. And I think they're a flawed team like the Raiders, but I think they're a fringy playoff team.
It's a tough one because you're talking about a grouping that includes, to me in the NFC, a beat-up 49ers team, tons of question marks after a 3-0 start, now 0-3 Panthers team. You have them in front of the Steelers. Like, to me, that's a group where it's just question marks. Like, okay, I like some of what they do. I don't like some of what they do. And I think that's just kind of that window that we're in. Are they a little high at 14? Here's what I would say, Cynthia. Like the NFC, the top is heavy. We just discussed that in the last segment. But the back end is crazy soft. It's very reminiscent of the SEC. You have these elite teams at the top. But then after that, there's just kind of a lot of, okay, you can, I guess, make a case for that team to go to the Beef O'Brady's Bowl. I'll take it, or they go home.
Cindy, what do you got there?
I looked at this book. Big, dumb, stupid season is don't go to playoffs. Done. Figured it out.
It's like a border. They're like the border collie of NFL teams right now. Just lovable and kind of not that smart. Go ahead.
All right. You know what? Border collie owners out there, at DanHanzus, HAN.
Yeah, come at me. I don't know.
OOSE,
really
I believe is how you spell it.
I love dogs.
Cynthia, fantasy. Let's look at your list of fantasy matchups you like this week.
Okay, so I'm going to Chuba Hubbard
Totally.
the Giants. I think that's going to be a good opportunity for him without Christian McCaffrey. Of course, Mac Jones against the Jets. The Jets have a lot of questions in their secondary. James Conner against the Texans. Of course, some of these games are some blowouts. So you want to target the running back there. James Conner likes the end zone. Ricky Seals-Jones against the Packers. The Packers give up some points to tight ends. And Darrell Henderson pick everyone against the Lions and pick twice if they happen to be a running back in a blowout game.
I love Mac Jones on this list because I think Jones has been underrated this season.
Reverse jinx. That's what's going on here.
Got the Jets this week.
Reverse jinx.
A Jets defense has been up and down this season, to say the least. They get after the quarterback a little bit, but I think Mac Jones is a guy who can handle pressure, and I think it's one of the things that has been kind of slept on a little bit this season is that he's been the best rookie quarterback, and he's making big throws every week. So, yes, I think this is a nice little spot start if you're in a little bit of a bind. Maybe you're in a 2 QB league. I wouldn't go crazy about Mac Jones, but I like him as a fantasy fill-in guy.
I'm going to go Chuba.
There's 6 teams on a bye. You could probably have to play him.
No, I think I think you're right, Cynthia. I think he's a QB1. I like Chuba. Look, I mean, I don't know how many people are paying attention to Matt Rule post-game pressers, but he basically said it, is that Sam Darnold's got to be better. Sam Darnold's decision-making's got to be better. They believe they're a playoff team. They like their defense. They thought, and look, there's some good there with Sam Darnold, but there's also some bad. And I think the way to try to alleviate that is to give him less opportunities to be bad. And that means more opportunities for Chuba with Christian McCaffrey, which, by the way, has been really questionably mismanaged, it seems like, up to this point.
Cynthia, I don't know if you feed quotes into your machine to come up with things, but as Money alluded to, this is what Matt Rule said after the game about getting back to the run. We're going to redefine who we are. That's the only way we can win. Sam Darnold probably didn't love that.
A little bit of a stinger there. All right. Well, you can get all of Cynthia's game projections and a whole lot of nuggets like Math Art at NFL.com/FRELU. There it is. ND. Best book collection in all the land as a backdrop. When we return, we got, an AFC West battle that is now back in the balance after the Chargers lose one badly in Baltimore. And a second half from Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs reminded us, why were you saying bad things about the Chiefs? That's coming up next. Back on Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer, our third quadrant. 49ers on a bye, sitting at number 17. They move neither way. Colts with a big victory over the Texans go up 6 spots, while the Panthers, after that 3-0 start, are now 3-3, as are the Broncos. And they are down there at 19-20. Put a pin in that. We'll get to it in a minute because it is time to remind you that Thursday Night Football kicks off Week 7 with the Broncos and Browns in Cleveland, 8 p.m. on all NFL Network, Fox, and Amazon Prime Video. Let's get to a Super Bowl champ and our favorite coach as it's time on Power Rankings for Player Pushback.
Thanks, Money. All right, Mooch, you and I have looked at these power rankings, and we have some thoughts. And my thought steers me towards the L.A. Chargers. And after watching them for a few weeks, I said, you know what, this is a pretty good team. They're on their road. They can do a lot of things in the playoffs and possibly get to the Super Bowl. But facing the Baltimore Ravens actually showed me some things about this team. One, when they played a lot of zero coverage and man-to-man and they bought their front, for some reason it confused Justin Herbert. Yeah. And what we found out through David Carr is he's not really responsible for the protections and seeing what's going on. Now, this is a problem because you got the center or lineman calling the protections out. They can't see the linebackers. They can't see the defensive backs. And if you're a good defensive coordinator, you're going to disguise, move guys around, do a lot to confuse them, and then you're going to bring what you really want to do. So he seemed a little confused. The ball was coming out late. Nobody was open. They struggled, and the Ravens had a real good game plan. Didn't run the ball as much, but this is a throwing team, Coach. Yeah. They throw the ball on average 41 times per game. So if they want to get better, if they're going to be one of those playoff and championship caliber teams, they're going to have to do better against man-to-man, better against the blitz, and Justin Herbert is going to have to start diagnosing and calling out his protections and understand what's going on the back.
That will happen in time. I got confused watching these guys, too. They put 6 or 7 of them standing there, and you don't know who's coming until after
what you do to
the
young
snap.
Quarterbacks, right?
So when I look at the list, I look at the Cardinals, and what are they? The last undefeated team, 6-0. Your guy that drafted you, Bill Parcells, said what? You are what your record says you are. They're 6-0 with the best record. Are they the best team? Not quite sure, but they're really a good team, and they won it without their head coach. But America's team is impressing me every week, aren't they? They lose the first game to Tampa, 31-29. It could have gone either way, right? Dak comes back, and everything's new on defense. And now they've won 5 in a row. And this team, we all know, is very explosive on offense. But you know what, Willie? They're the 3rd-ranked rushing team, too.
They are. They run the football.
They're feeding Zeke, too. And so they can do everything. And with this guy right here, we call him the Daxter. He can do it. He can spread the ball around. There's a stiff arm. A lot of weapons. And this team, America's team, is on a roll. Let's just hope they're going to have a bye. And let's just hope Dak's calf is okay.
Yeah, and you got to give a shout-out to the defense and Dan Quinn and what he's done. Excellent. Without all of his pieces, defense doing enough to win football
games. And Trayvon Diggs, if he keeps this up, he might be the defensive player of the year.
Could, possibly. All right. We'll see what happens to the next week. Don't forget to catch us weekdays on Total Access Money and DanHanzus. Back to you guys.
The Daxter.
The Daxter.
I mean, I love Mooch. He is the
best
man. He's
Willie.
He's a hero.
Love Mooch.
The Daxter.
The Daxter.
I'm going to start using that.
So Willie perfectly explained what was going wrong in that game for Justin Herbert. He was off. And it's interesting because Corey Linsley, of course, used to call out protections for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Last year, Justin Herbert was calling protections out with Dan Feeney at center. So that gets turned over to Linsley. He's done a great job thus far. We talked about it earlier. So, look, the defense didn't get enough pressure, especially with Villanueva, who's been an issue for the Ravens at tackle, and specifically with Ronnie Stanley out, who's now going to be out for the rest of the year, by the way. The defense certainly let down, especially as badly as their run defense was. But this, to me, was the problem in this game. This might have been worse than the 45-0 game against the Patriots last year for Herbert. Because remember, that game had blocked punts. It had weird specialty. It had a special teams punt return for a touchdown. Like, that wasn't just quarterbacking. This, to me, was a quarterbacking issue. It wasn't targeting the right players. Keenan Allen had Averett on him the whole time, just gashed him for a couple plays early, and Herbert never went back to him for whatever reason. As Willie talked, maybe they confused him. He was just out of rhythm and off. This team's got to be better on first down. There's far too many, and this is an issue before going into this game, where their 3rd and distance is like in the 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 range. That's got to be fixed, and I think it's something that's going to get worked out in the bye week, as well as you've got defensive players coming back. They're down 2 starting linebackers, and most importantly, one of their stout interior defenders in Justin Jones. All of those players, Drew Tranquill, Kenneth Murray, and Justin Jones, should be back after the bye. I think that helps the defense, but they simply got to be better on offense on first down in order to get into that elite category where we're talking about the Ravens and the Bills and the Chiefs reside.
And they have the guys to get better in that spot. And it's the Chargers have a defensive team that has a high ceiling, but the last 2 weeks have not been good at all. So you got to keep an eye on that. Are they regressing on defense, and maybe they get healthy and get better? So that's something to keep an eye on. Then the Herbert thing was just strange to watch.
It was.
Because
he's been so good.
He's been so good that you just expect that every week, and his accuracy was terrible in the game too. It's just like it was almost like someone else took over his body.
It was weird. It was decision-making. It was targeting, rookies like Josh Palmer, who had 5 or 7 targets coming into this game, and Jalen Guyton instead of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, throwing the ball with too much zip to Jared Cook on a third down that would have been an easy first down. It was a very odd outlier game for him.
I just wonder if you're an opposing defensive coordinator, of course you're going to study this tape. Yeah. Are you going to see it and be like, oh, let's go after this, this, and this, or like, oh, he had a bad day?
Look, they're on a bye. Guess who's up next? And by the way, they had a front-loaded schedule that was gnarly. I mean, it was all playoff teams there. In addition to an undefeated Raiders team, they get Cleveland, they get the Ravens, they have the Chiefs at Arrowhead, they have the Cowboys. They get out of that at 4-2. That's fine. The back end of their schedule gets a lot easier. Coming out of the bye, though, Bill Belichick, see what he learned from that one and how that defense is going to look in Week 8. Also mentioned there is, we talked about it. Are they still the class of the AFC? How are we feeling about the Chiefs after Patrick Mahomes came out of that second half looking a lot like Patrick Mahomes?
I would say, well, if you just judge it off the power rankings, this is what we do here. I see the Chargers as a step ahead of the Chiefs right now, but the Chiefs are right there. And, you watch the second half and you're back to feeling really good about this offense and what they can do. And their defense played better as well, which was much relief. It was just really good to have a blowout here. But then if you watch the game in the first half, everything that you were concerned about with Kansas City on the offensive side of the ball was there with the ridiculous turnovers. And even Patrick Mahomes, I think his turnover at the end of the second quarter was the worst play of his career. I mean, this guy's been brilliant. So they were able to kind of put that in the rear view. But it did remind me that, yes, I could spin forward and positively about this team. But even in a blowout win, there were some things to be like, is this team right? Is there still something off here?
It's a little bit of Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech, just kind of throwing the ball all over the place. But then the second half happens, and you're like, oh, yeah, this is a playoff.
Washington stinks.
They do. It is inexplicable what's going on with that defensive front. It just does not add up with all the talent that they have, that it's playing completely. I mean, it's the other end of the spectrum of where they were last year. Sure. But to speak to your point, 100% in on the Chiefs making the playoffs. Not concerned about that at all. Where they fit in the rankings, don't quite know yet. We'll need a little bit of a larger sample size. Did you know October 24th is National Tight Ends Day?
I knew it, and I'm pumped about it.
Dan, here is your top 5 tight end rankings. You see there 1, Travis Kelce, 2, Darren Waller, no George Kittle because he's been injured.
Right.
But you want to celebrate number 3. Mark Andrews not getting not getting enough love out there.
Kelce is the clear number 1, and these rankings are 2021 specific. Otherwise, Kittle would be there. But Kelce's still the clear number 1. Darren Waller's come down to earth a little bit, especially since week 1. And you can make the case that Mark Andrews is the second best tight end in the league this year. And, he got off to a slow start in terms of touchdowns, but now he has 3 in the last 8 days, I believe. And, he had those big 2-point conversions as well in that Monday night comeback against the Colts. And he's just the guy. He's the security blanket for Lamar Jackson. Marquise Hollywood Brown has become the big play guy, but Andrews is the guy that keeps Lamar comfortable. And I just think he's a little bit overlooked when talking about the better tight ends in the league.
I'm going to go with someone that didn't make your top 5, and that's Dalton Schultz.
Okay.
Deserves a lot more love. You look at Schultz's numbers, he's got 37 targets, 31 receptions, 359 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And he has become, to me is the biggest statistic, 19 first downs.
Oh, he's a chain mover,
yes,
buddy.
He is a chain mover, and he is, on third down, a go-to target for Dak. He fights for extra yards. He's got good yards after contact numbers. How about 182 of those? So Schultz, I think, because a lot of us thought the preseason rankings get a lot of attention. We all thought it was Blake Jarwin coming into the year. So I think people have to get their head around, no, the tight end 1 is Dalton Schultz, and he's a really good tight end.
They're good at this. Jay Novacek, Jason Witten, Dalton Schultz, they find a way. And if you would have told me before the season that their tight ends through week 6 would have 37 targets, their top tight end, I would have said no way with all those wide receivers and Zeke. There's not enough passes to go around, but Cowboys love to throw passes, so that helps as well.
That does help as well, especially when you're Bill Belichick and you take the run game away. When we return, well, we like to, well, every now and then maybe we get to a lot of teams and you're like, what about my guys? Where are they going to fit? Well, that's what we're doing. Talking about some teams we have yet to address. The Browns at 3-3 on a short week with Thursday Night Football against that Broncos defense. And are we really talking moral victories for the Patriots? Is that where we're at in 2021? That's next.
That's it.
Back on Power Rankings, presented by Energizer. Here it is, our final quadrant.
Rough sitch down here.
Somehow the Texans found themselves behind the Lions, even though they should have won that game against the Patriots, were it not for that ridiculous punt that we'll get into in a second.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
You really think the Lions are better than the Texans?
I mean, it's dark down here. No, you can't see what's going on anyway.
It is just 2,000 feet below sea. There is no light down there. Miami Dolphins, though, the biggest surprise in that grouping at 1-5. Something we're going to be doing moving forward, and that is who'd we miss? Make sure we get in as many of these teams out of the 32 as we can in 1 hour of programming. Who do you felt like we have missed talking about thus far?
I mean, we should talk about the Browns because you come into the season and a lot of people said, oh, this could be a Super Bowl team, Cleveland. And
Looks like I thought they were roster on paper.
Playoff team. And then if you look under the hood in 2020, some advanced analytics told you actually they aren't that good. And now you fast forward to the middle of October and it's like, are the Browns not that good? I know that Baker's not healthy. I know you lost Kareem Hunt on Sunday. I know you didn't have Nick Chubb. But you're getting blown out in your building by the Cardinals, who are missing their head coach and their best defensive player. That is a bad look. And you just look, they got Thursday night coming up. Nick Chubb is going to be out again. Kareem Hunt is out again. And their season is at a crossroads here. They're falling out of the division race, and you could see this going sideways.
I think you can certainly make the case for injury, right? Down 2 tackles, down Denzel Ward, down Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt goes out, no Jarvis Landry. That's a lot of injury, but you
look
know
at
what?
the Ravens.
I just say, you got Clowney. I know Clowney's been banged up, but Myles Garrett, to me, that's where they've got to improve.
Right.
They've got to get that defensive line going.
I'm hearing a lot, the injuries. Okay. A lot of teams have injuries.
Let's get some positivity.
All right.
Let's get some positivity.
The Bengals.
The Bengals.
That's positive.
That's right.
You know, every great offense has triplets, the big three. And I think Cincinnati has it cooking now with Joe Burrow healthy and slinging it. and Jamar Chase. No one's talking about the Bengals making the wrong pick anymore at the wide receiver position at the top of the last year's draft. He is a transcendent difference maker potentially for Cincinnati. And then Joe Mixon, who's kind of been a frustrating performer in the NFL. When he's healthy, though, he is a 3-down, all-purpose back. You put these guys together and keep them healthy together, they're going to be lighting up defenses all year round. And that's why I see Cincinnati as a team that's going to make the playoffs.
And by the way, that defense has looked really good, especially up front. So you're talking about a balanced squad as well. I'm going to go to the Patriots. It's just weird. The Patriots are 2-4. Mm-hmm. They truly should be. You can make that case in a lot of different situations, but
you're big on should in this.
They should be 1-5. The punt by the Texan was inexplicable.
Okay.
Inexplicable.
Could be 4-2 also.
No, you can't make that case. But you can make a case that if that punt is executed like a standard punt, they are 1-5. So they're excited, though, because Mac Jones, as the 5th quarterback taken, looks like he's going to be a good quarterback in this league. He is doing things that good quarterbacks do, not dropping his eyes, keeping his head up in the face of pressure, finding the open man, starting to push the ball downfield. And it's not like he's got the greatest weapons out there. No. They are still throwing to people that don't inspire a lot of fear in their opponents. But here's the flip side of that. They went out and spent a couple $100 million on free agents. So when you do that, you're signaling, we expect to win now. That's why we just spent $200 million or whatever it was, $150 million in signing bonuses to populate this roster. We believe we can win right now. And that's why it's hard to reconcile. Okay, are they okay? Are they on track? Are they not okay? Because they're 2-4 and don't look like they're a playoff team at this point.
Belichick has done it all, and he's a first ballot Hall of Fame guy. But there does seem to be a sense that they're a little rudderless organizationally, where they got rid of Tom Brady and said it was time to reboot. We can't figure out how to make the roster work going forward. Then you bring in Mac Jones as a rookie and Cam Newton, and then you spend a ton of money on guys that aren't really difference makers. They're kind of all over the place. And what's special about the New England Patriots right now? I don't think there's anything.
I think they're selling a lot of Mac Jones jerseys because people are excited that he might be their next quarterback for the next 15 years. Dan, you know what time it is when we return?
No. Oh, come on.
Central Valley Radio.
I don't understand why this remains in the show.
This laughable. Team is 6-0. And apparently they have an issue with the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know why, but the Central Valley's not happy with you. What do you got there? Constructive criticism when we return.
Lounge.
More of that. Put a tent on this guy. Play NFL Knockout. It is a free-to-play game presented by Caesars Sportsbook. You answer 15 questions about the Saints Seahawks game to win exclusive prizes, including a VIP package to this year's Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles. You can visit NFL.com/knockout. All right, Dan, here we go.
Okay.
Social media about to have their way with you.
And I just want to say, because I got my clown horn, I got my noses.
Let me have one of those noses.
Yeah, and I'll hand them out when deserved. But if they don't deserve it, if they're making actual constructive criticism, that's cool. When it's like just a hit piece on the old Zeuser,
right?
That's when you get this and this. So let's see what they got this week.
I don't know how these clowns keep these things.
I'm open to criticism. I like hearing what you have to say.
Tiny pig nose, and it won't stick. All right, here we go. This is from Christopher. You are a clown, and your NFL rankings are a joke, just like you're right. The Browns hired and the Steelers. The defense is declining, and so is the offense, and the Steelers are climbing. You are a all-caps Joe.
All right. Well, first of all, listen, you're calling me a clown, but you're the one, baby. You're getting the nose. And let's calm down here with the Steelers being a team that we should say now deserves respect when they barely found a way to beat Geno Smith.
Didn't we already discuss
in their building? I mean, what are we doing?
Didn't we discuss this? You gotta get the flick. You can't do the throw. You gotta flick it, man. That's the trick.
I mean, you were like the dirtbag kids outside the high school.
I was a dirtbag. I was a hesher.
That wasn't me. What else we got?
Hide in your past. Here we go. Next constructive criticism is much more succinct. What a clown.
Again with the clown.
Rams at 7, you clown.
You're trying to get ahead of the clown thing.
Yes, you've invited this.
You're the clown. And here's the thing about this one. I'll try it.
Come on.
I don't know.
Not bad.
The Rams, what does that even mean? Like, Rams at 7?
Yeah.
Does that mean they're too high? Does that mean they're too low?
No, I think it means they're too low. Rams look good.
I'm just saying,
Cup, Matthew Stafford making sweet music.
You're wasting my time, Aaron, because we're trying to have a successful television program here.
Feed me.
A successful television program. Give me a little more. Give me a little more. Tell me why you're upset. What else?
Rams at 7. I got nothing else.
Yeah.
I got nothing else. When we return, we do have one more segment for you. That is our challenge flags.
Tell me to be better.
We challenge someone or something. Our producer went off the rails, one of our producers this morning, Matt Tanton. So it's a message for him and all the Bears fans out there coming out of that rivalry contest. The most storied rivalry in NFL history. Packers-Bears. We're throwing out a challenge flag on that next. And we are back on Power Rankings presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. And our final segment is Challenge Flags. We choose to challenge someone, some team, something. Inanimate objects have been challenged before. Dan, you have the floor. What do we got?
All right, I'm going to listen, I got to challenge Brian Flores. I mean,
You say it with great deference.
get it together, Brian Flores. The burning of the challenges in London, the bizarre timeout that gave the Jaguars a chance to get closer and set up that game-winning field goal. This is the type of stuff that cannot happen. You cannot, with your season hanging in the balance at 1-4, lose to the Jaguars, the Urban Meyer Jaguars. And I think Flores, when you look at it, and I like Flores, we all like Flores, but in terms of stock dropping from the head coach position from September to where we are now, no one has dropped, well, maybe Urban Meyer. Well,
Easily.
John Gruden also. Yeah. But he's got the bronze medal in the drop.
Easily the most disappointing team out there. And remember, the Eagles have their first-round pick, which as it stands today will be the number 3 overall pick in the upcoming draft. My challenge flag, right when you go to my single, I'm wildly disappointed in myself.
Yeah.
Bears fans, I know you don't like it. I know it hurts because Ralph and Tony, my parents, live in Northwest Indiana / south side of Chicago. And this
Big
one
money.
hurts, but embrace it. Appreciate it. That someone loves this rivalry so much that even though he seems indifferent to everything on earth,
Sure.
this one day, in this little window of time, it means that much to him that he gets that fired up. Embrace Aaron Rodgers. Thank you for watching Power
Thank
Rankings.
you.
We'll be back again next week.
It should be stated that he was getting the double bird, too, from the Bears.